happened here. My
And good to go. All right. I'm here with Bruce Wemple, and he is the director of Capture, which is coming out on the 17th from Uncorked Entertainment. And Bruce, it is an honor to talk with you about this movie. I saw it actually today, and I was blown. It felt like it was a slow burn, but it just got more intense, and I really love those type of movies.
Oh, thank you so much. That's awesome. That's awesome.
So,
Um, Go ahead.
so my
No,
first question, yeah, my first question is, what was the influence behind this movie? Like, what was your inspiration behind it?
I think there's a lot of different things going on that kind of made this movie because I think it's partly what I find scary kind of went a long way into putting this movie together.
Hmm.
And then also just like I realized a lot of influences. Again, I don't know how old you are, but I think when I was in those formative, I would say, preteen years, started watching a lot more horror movies. There was a lot of like Japanese horror that was being remade into American horror. And
Yep.
I was at the movie theater watching a lot of those movies. Some good, some mostly not as good, but it turned me on to the Japanese horror movies. And like I would argue, like, yeah, maybe The Ring is the exception to that. But either way, so that was all, I was watching those. And beyond that, the movie I did previously, I'm sorry, my dog. The movie I did previously to this one, I was editing it in my suite. It's a horror movie. This is about maybe a year before I started writing this movie, and out of nowhere, some of the takes were corrupted. And it was one of those things where I'm editing a scary scene, and then the literally the footage of not like all the footage, but just like certain takes here and there would just go and like make a loud noise, and then just the take would be corrupted, and it freaked the crap out of me. So at that point, I'm like, all right, this videotape stuff really can be scary, and so I started writing, and then yeah, so put this together, and yeah, I think we tried to like make something again that would scare me if I was watching it. I guess was the inspiration.
That's great. And what I really liked was the camcorder is like the thing here. And I gotta admit, I'm like you. I was in my late teens when the whole Japanese remake thing started happening. I was in my preteens when I re really got into horror as well. So I was watching all the slashers and all the B movie horror movies. And then we had the resurgence of the Japanese horror films. You're right, The Ring is the exception and actually turned me on to watch the original Ring as well. So I totally get where that's coming from. But I like the fact that you used the camcorder as this weapon of choice in a way for Abby. And I mean, that's just mind blowing. That's crazy.
Yeah, the timing of it worked out in terms of like when Lead would have been born. It would have been that when mini DVs first started coming on the market, and because I've seen there's somewhat similar concepts with actual film and projectors and all that sort of stuff, but like I'd never seen this like a mini DV camcorder where it's like a weird blurry line between digital and analog. And yeah, so then we actually took a while to find the right camcorder because it needed to have the right sort of digital viewfinder to make it work. Little It's not really a flub, but the movie takes place, it's supposed to be 1994 camcorder. The one we ended up finding is technically from 1995, just because the way that worked out. But yeah, no, I definitely was like, whole time was like, it has to be like that mini DV digital viewfinder. What you're looking at is that live time effect where it's kind of like it's somewhat being reinterpolated through the camera before it actually hits your eye.
Yeah. And Abby is a very flawed character. And I love that those type of characters where they're actually like human. It's not like she has this bit of confidence, but she's more like where'd I come from? And she just has this messed up type of life. And then thinking that she's gonna get the house, it seems like, okay, well, I'm gonna just fix it up and sell it and move on with my life. But now it's like her life gets worse. And Caitlin gets total props for that role. She did such a phenomenal job. What was it like working with her?
No, she killed it. She got, and then, like you said, with the character, that's always the biggest hurdle with these movies, right? Is like how to get them to stay at the house because anyone in the right mind, the second one of these things happens, you get out of there. And either you can make them trapped there or they have to have some sort of emotional connection or flaw that keeps her. And that's where we lean towards this. Caitlin is amazing. I had worked with her twice before this. Once in a smaller role in a movie called The Hangman. That was a couple years ago. And then after in a movie called The North Witch, where she was a much bigger supporting character. And I started to realize then like her level of commitment when she does a role. And like it was just awesome to watch, awesome to work with. And then for this one, the movie wasn't even like greenlit. I kind of had like a script, but it was more of an outline than a script. But I started pitching it to her. I was like, would you be interested in doing this? So she was already connected to the project well before we even knew we were making a movie. And that was great. So like once we were on set, like having a creative partner like that just knew the character, knew the movie inside and out, that when we were there and trying to make the best possible version of it was, we were just on the same page and just her ready to just give everything she has to the role. So yeah, no, I can't say enough positive things about working with Caitlin.
And I love the little subplot where the whole town is like against her in a way, because, like except for one person, Kyle, and but everyone's against her because like you need to get out of this town now because or get out of here. Like she brought the curse on when they realize who she is,
Yep.
and that's just mind blow. That's just mind blowing also because I felt at times like something was gonna happen where she gets I'm gonna be honest, I know I'm not spoiling anything really, but I thought she was gonna get possessed eventually herself. And I just thought, oh man, she's gonna like slowly transform and kill these people herself. That's what I thought was gonna happen. Thankfully, that was not what happens. I'm not gonna spoil it, but thankfully that's not the case. And I gotta say, I like that. I like it when it's like the town folks get involved and they're like, get out. Just,
Yeah. Yeah, there's a dread over the whole town, right? Yeah, and that's always the fun part of like we talk about like I guess you call it like a it's called haunted object horror is what it is, but for us we were trying to make just as like a haunted house movie, almost like The Conjuring, and they were like one of those even as far back as like Innocence or Psycho or something like that, where it's like a genuine feels like an haunted house. Woman in Black, another one I love, but like yeah, so we were trying to combine those two, and I think to get that, we realized like you really need a place that feels unwelcome for a number of reasons. It can't just look spooky. That it needs to have the look to it and everything, but there also has to be a reason like you being there is driving something else towards evil, whether it's the people surrounding you or something in the house or whatever it is. So
yeah.
that was always a big part of it was just making sure that place felt as dreadful as possible.
Now I do have to ask that where was this house that you shot? Because that just looks, I mean, it looks like a fixer-upper, but kind of reminds me of my grandparents' old house in Puerto Rico, and like, but although that's in the corner house, but it felt like this fixer-upper. I'm thinking myself, I was inside of it, like I was like, okay, something ain't right here. I'm like, I'm getting vibes here. I should not be in this house. So where
We got
was
so lucky with that place. Yeah, the we it was we once we knew we were making the project, we started scouting a few places and we found this one place. It's called Tannersville, New York. It's in upstate New York. And we met with the owner and the owner was just so supportive about just like, until we're making a horror movie. Um and just started asking questions about the movie, was very interested about the movie, clearly a movie lover. And the more we got into it, the more she showed us around the house and um a lot of the stuff in the movie wasn't necessarily in the script, and that's usual. You write the script according to like what your dream house would be, and then you go to the house and you have to kind of keep an open mind of like, okay, if the house has something better or different, you just gotta work with that. But this one we just had, the basement that had like hanging insulation from it, that had like almost like a dungeon feel, and then the middle level just had this perfect, like you said, this almost fixer-upper, but still tall ceilings, had this like larger than life, and then all the way up to the attic that what I don't think the attic was actually in the script originally. It was that was something else. And so yeah, once we saw that house and saw the outside, we're like, this is it. And that opening shot, the drone shot where it kind of comes across the trees to the house, that's just the house. It's that isolated. There is nothing around it. So that was
Wow,
yeah,
that's
it was great.
awesome.
It was
That's
great.
kind of awesome in a way. 'Cause it's like you get to see how it looks like. No, this is not like a built set house. This is an actual house.
Yeah.
in the middle of nowhere, and it just works.
Oh,
Basically.
oh, yeah, no, it was fun. There was yeah, I mean, even at night there was a couple rooms in there that were just still in the movie, but they're in real life just kind of half under construction. And so we'd find, I think I want to say a couple of the props in there were just we just left in there. I'm maybe forgetting remember this wrong, but I think the crib, the little cradle thing, might have already been in there, like stuff like that. So we're like, all right, that's spooky. Let's just keep that going and everything. And so yeah, we got it was just sometimes with locations and stuff, it's either luck or just persistence of just like looking at as many places you can until you find that one place, and then that changes everything. It changes the cinematography. It changes everything about the movie will change if you find that perfect location.
That's awesome. Well, I definitely love indie films, so I gotta ask this: how long did shooting take on this, and what were the challenges you faced during production, if any, besides the usual of time and money? Were there any like physical challenges?
So like for me, it's the more prepped you are, the less, everything's going to go wrong at some point. Luckily, the crew that I work with, we've done a number of other movies together, horror movies, kind of like this. This is, I definitely think, is the best work we've ever done, but we have enough of a shorthand that it's easier when things do go wrong to kind of keep a balanced head about it and keep, work our way through it. What was the biggest challenge? We got hit with a really bad storm one day and almost cost us a full day, but that'll happen. It was one of those things where like we looked outside and there was furniture, like lawn furniture and stuff, like blowing across the yard, and just there was branches that were going into the yard. It was just a really, really rough storm. And outside of that, yeah, I mean, the other, any of the special effect makeup stuff is always going to have, we worked, our makeup artist, Jesse Hyduck, I've worked with her in the last few films, and, she's great, and she's amazing. But any blood gag, anything, whether the face peeling or whatever, it's a trial and error sort of situation, Lucky it works the first time, great and stuff, but if you have to reset or you got blood everywhere, that's any of these movies, though. That's just you come to expect that. So you just go bracing yourself, being like, okay, take the wins when we can, and then if when things get hard, we just got to stick together and keep making it. I think that's the biggest thing on any production, though, is like sticking together, not pointing any fingers, and just trying to make sure everyone's there to make the best movie we can.
That's awesome. And how long was shooting on this one? How long did shooting
I
take?
want to say 12 days. It was tight. It was tight. Luckily, we were able to get the first couple of scenes outside the house done in those first day or two. And then, of course, the one thing we had to do is Abby also obviously plays the mom. Caitlin plays the mom. So what in the beginning of the shoot, along with those other outside location things, we tried to get all of her coverage done of her as her mother. So she could just concentrate on being Abby for the rest of the movie.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I almost didn't recognize her. I didn't realize that was her in the make. I was like, that was a good because I kept looking like who plays the mom in this, and I'm like, wow. Okay, now that you told me that, I'm like, okay, that makes it a lot easier. But she looked unrecognizable in that with that.
Yeah.
Stuff. I barely even recognize. Probably because of the way the video was shot. Like the video footage has that grainy footage, and it felt like okay, I don't recognize that, but her,
Oh
but.
yeah, the she did great, and I remember explaining to her like you're also gonna play the mom, and she was a little like, "Are you sure?" And I'm like, "Yeah, we'll make it." And then once the hair and everything came on, I worked perfectly. I'm so happy that we did it that way.
That's awesome. So what's next for you after this or any new projects that you can talk about?
Nothing that like is concrete. Like I'm really excited for this to come out. I'm seeing it in a theater with an audience for the first time on Friday, which I'm super excited about. I just this I'd really hope any other audience watching this movie just like gives it that opportunity to watch it either in a dark room or give it, a chance to really focus on it. I always, probably like you, get that sinking feeling that like, all right, this movie's going to go out. And I'm sure there's people out there second screening and, looking at their phone. I'm like, please, just if you can watch it with the sound turned up in a dark room, please, please, please. And so yeah, this weekend we're doing a Friday the 13th premiere. Just at a local theater. Really excited about that. As far as in the next horror movie or the next, yeah, it's anyone's guess. But yeah, hopefully it'll happen soon though. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, everyone, check out Capture. If you're in that theater, if you're in that area, check it out in the theaters on Friday. But otherwise, it will be out on the 17th from Uncorked Entertainment. This is a fantastic movie. If you love these Japanese horror films like The Ring or The Grudge, like I'm talking about the originals, this definitely you don't want to see this one because this was a great movie. And Bruce, thank you so much for taking the time to talk about it again.
No, thank you so much for having me. This is super fun. Thanks.
All right, you take care and stay awesome.
Thank- Take
All
care.
right, bye.